Hey everyone, it's me, Terrence, host of Waffle Wednesday. So you know what day it is. It's definitely a Wednesday. It's going to be waffling due to the date. Um, so this podcast was scheduled to have a couple guests. To have a guest. The first guest just got swamped with some stuff over the coming weeks. Some things she wasn't really expecting, I don't think. Just needed a little bit of time to get herself through those busy weeks, and then is more than happy to join us, and I'm excited for that. So the other guest also, very similarly, had just a busy week. Texted me and said, brain's all over the spot, all over the place. Could we reschedule? And not a problem, because something happened last week that kind of made this topic of a podcast a little bit more important for us. My camera looks crooked. It looks like it's like laying down. Yeah, there we go. Pardon all the clutter. I still haven't really created a studio, as it were. So if you're watching this, please mind the clutter. But so last week, a friend of mine reached out from England. I've talked a lot about pretty much every podcast that I lived there. It's pretty awesome. I loved it. Consider that place home, a second home, really. But anyway, a friend of mine from over there texted me and was like, "Tez lad, you up? What's going on? How are you?" And I was like, "Hey man, good to hear from you." Typically, I hear from individuals with big life moments, right? So in the groups, we all talk every day. But like, if I get reached out, someone reaches out to me like one-on-one, I know something's happened. Last time I got one of those, unfortunately, was a passing of a friend of ours, and that was difficult. But this one kind of got my antennas going because I got that message, woke up to it, and was like, "What?" Looked at it, and a friend had gone into emergency surgery and was given a stoma. So today's podcast is going to be all about the stoma, or the stome, as the cool kids call it. And I'm going to talk about my experience and only my experience. This is not that person's experience. It's not other people with the stomas. So stomas are incredibly diverse in why they are needed in a body. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. It might be a little bit disheveled. It is kind of a difficult topic to talk about. There's a lot of pain and negative feelings about when I was given the news about having to have a stoma. But that quickly changes to a positive. But I am going to talk about all of it. So if I kind of readdress things, it's just because my memory might be picking up something negative. I don't want this to be a negative episode. I want it to be informative. I want it to be supportive. I kind of just want to get that out there. I am a person who lives with a bag. So I'm going to stand up. Pardon me if you don't want to see it. It's just a plastic bag, but I'm going to show everyone. Pardon my belly. So when I say my bag, that's what I mean. It is what's known as an ostomy bag. So a ostomy bag is not a colostomy bag. So first we're just going to talk about some terms, what the differences are, and then I'm going to jump into a little bit about my story. So people will often go, "Oh, you have a colostomy," and I say, "No, I don't actually. I have an ostomy." So the big difference between a colostomy and an ostomy is that a colostomy bag is for those who need to use the bathroom in a bag but still have their colon. An ostomy bag is one for people who do not have a colon. So I do not have a colon. My colon was removed completely in 2015, October 5th to be exact. If you really want a live update on all of those things, I wrote a blog at the time, all about what I was going through and all the different things. So if you're interested in that, it's FNMC at WordPress, and it's all about my colon. So the difference in ostomy and colostomy is that, right? Colostomies, people still have colons. People with ostomies do not. So like I said, my colon was removed, and I was given what is known as a stoma. So a stoma is when you have either large or small intestine, some intestine of yours is surgically routed, right? So all the piping in your body, look at that move, huh? All the piping in your body is to go for eating, storing nutrients, flushing out anything that's not necessary. And your colon does a lot of the holding and waiting, right? So if you don't have a colon, you're not holding and waiting. So I am using number 2 through my small intestine that is literally cut out of my stomach, pulled through, and then they cuff it like a shirt and then sew it to your stomach. So, and then the bag over, of course, there's because you don't have a muscle. So your anus, right, is a muscle that is, pretty strong. And the reason that you don't poop yourself all the time is because you have muscles internally and externally this visual is wild. Why am I doing that visual? But that muscle can restrain and hold the fecal matter inside your body so that you shouldn't poop yourself, right? Well, intestines don't have those muscles. So when I eat, so it's called transit time, I eat, 90 minutes later, I got bag stuff, right? I got waste. Poop, if you will. So I eat, 90 minutes later, typically, it comes through, I'm out, right? But the reason for the bag is because there's no muscle to hold it. I don't know when I'm using the bathroom. The only time I know is when there's like a weight differential. So if I have like a massive bowel movement, eat a bunch of food, and it comes through, I could typically feel that, right? I could feel that weight change inside the bag. 11 years almost of having this thing, I'm pretty good with it. So I kind of know, just based around feeling and different stuff in my body, when it's time to empty. It wasn't always that way. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But so the stoma is my small intestine, cuffed, sewn to my body, bag put over it with adhesive in order to use the restroom. So that saved my life. So let's just start there. And I'm going to go into some specifics about my story. This entire episode is going to be kind of gnarly. If you are under the age of 18 or you do not want to hear about bodily functions and body movements and medical terms and medical things, then this episode may not be for you. If it interests you at all or you are just want to power through, then please do. This episode is important to me because, one, it's my story. It's something that I am very, very passionate about. It's weird to say that, but I'm passionate about the health and the medical marvels and all of the things that have gotten me to the point where I am. So I'm going to say this a few times. I am currently on 22 surgeries. So I've had 22 surgeries just about my bowel, right? My stomach, my anal cavity, my anus itself, all of it, right? 22 surgeries in total. And that's really like post removal of my colon too. So as you can tell, it's an ongoing process. So again, if this is something you don't really want to be a part of, or you just don't want to hear about it, and by all means, just turn it off. That's what this whole episode is going to be, because my friend needs this information, and I'm guessing other people need it. And honestly, I feel like an advocate. I feel like a person who has been through it enough to be able to stand here and tell you all of the great things, all of the things to watch out for, and all of the resources and support. So just, there you go. So how did I end up with a stoma, right? How did I end up with a living part of my organs outside my body, which I always think is wild, right? Like I literally, when I'm changing my bag in the shower, I'll look and be like, what's like supposed to be inside my body? But anyway, so how did I end up with a stoma? So I've had stomach issues probably my whole life. Well, not probably, I have. And so growing up in the 80s and 90s, there wasn't a whole lot of discussion or understanding of like processed foods or allergies or, excuse me, any of the things that may cause your stomach to start to develop what's known as ulcerative colitis, or Crohn's. They're very different. Ulcerative colitis. So I was diagnosed in 2015 with ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, as well as lupus. Right, so all in a host of other autoimmune diseases. So like rheumatoid arthritis, all the joint pains, all the things that come along with several autoimmune diseases. So I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. That autoimmune disease is Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. Now, the lupus does have an effect on me now with other parts of my body, but at the time, that didn't seem to be playing into what was going on in my stomach. So, rewind, always had kind of an upset stomach with certain things, certain foods. But again, no one really knew at the time. My mom would often just say, "Oh, rich food doesn't agree with him," or "Oh, he's got just a little tummy issue," right? And so when I would use the bathroom with emergencies or stuff, it just seemed pretty normal because I'd always done it. Um, I was in England in 2014 when I started to notice blood in my stool. And so I immediately, of course, you see blood there, you're like, that's kind of scary. And so I immediately went to my general practitioner, my GP in England. Thank you, NHS. You all are amazing. You're absolute superheroes. Got me in immediately. Said, we're not going to wait on this. This could be something serious. So let's get you a colonoscopy. So I was 31, 32 maybe. It was 11 years ago. So 32. So I was 32 at the time and living in England and went to go see for a colonoscopy. Met with the specialist who was like an oncologist because, everything that was a symptom, age, diet, lifestyle, everything kind of pointed to, well, this is probably something, maybe cancer or something else. So that hits you heavy, right? 32. I might have cancer. So yeah, let's get this colonoscopy going. So had a colonoscopy. The doctor's like, yeah, you got like tons of polyps and things on your colon and intestines. Let's have another scheduled appointment to get rid of those and see if that helps. So that's what we did. I think it was like 2 weeks. Got me in, eliminate all that. Week later, I come back in, and he's like, yeah, it doesn't seem to be, it's not cancer. We know that it's not cancer. I was like, all right, cool. He's like, I do want to do some blood tests. I want to do this to see if it's potentially ulcerative colitis or maybe Crohn's or some other stomach autoimmune stuff that you got going on. Well, personally at that time, I was in the transition of moving back to the United States. Um, Now I was going to go back to England a few years later, unbeknownst to me. But at the time, I was like, okay, I'm moving back to America. And like literally, this is all happening in that time. So I had my plane ticket already booked. Everything was already set for me to go back to America. And here I am with this, very serious and questions like, what am I going to do? But was like, that's not cancer. So like, keep it moving. It'll clear up, whatever it is, right? And so I moved to America in December of 2014, and then it does not subdue. It actually just gets worse. So I end up actually hemorrhaging, not just having blood in my stool, but I'm just hemorrhaging blood and mucus and all sorts of stuff all the time. I'm using the bathroom, and this is not an exaggeration. I'm using the bathroom probably around 18 to 20 times a day. Uh, Number two. And what's coming out isn't fecal. It's all blood. But I moved back to America, and at this time in America, you had the 90-day rule. So when you got a new job, regardless of what that job was, you had to be in that job for 90 days before insurance kicked in. So I spent 3 months hemorrhaging blood from my rectum, wearing Depends, doing the sweater thing around my backside if I wasn't able to make it in time. There was plenty of time. So I was an educator, a school teacher. So I was teaching fifth grade, and I was, for those teachers who know, you don't get to go to the bathroom whenever you need to. It's got to be strategic. And so even in the best of times, if I could call to have somebody cover, I was still not making it. So there were plenty of days I did the sweater approach, or wore Depends and changed them out. I did a lot of things to try and get through, trying to push through. Um, and then so insurance hits in April, and then I go in for a colonoscopy in America. And they're like, yeah, man, you've got like massive holes in your colon. We can get you, you have UC, ulcerative colitis. I said, all right, cool. What do we do? And he's like, well, we can get you on Humira and get you on some drugs, try to like slow it down. Hopefully the colon can repair itself and we can keep it moving. We'll get you into remission. So got on Humira, nothing. Exact same thing. Like nothing slowing down. Stelara, same thing. On a lot of prednisone, which is a steroid. So my face was super fat, more so than now. But like a big moon face, all sorts of just awful, awful things with prescribed drugs, and like it just wasn't working. So still hemorrhaging blood, still having the same symptoms, but now I have all the effects of like, being on steroids for 3 months. So school ends, it's June, and I'm a high school soccer coach. So I was running practice, and I was performing some of the drills with the kids to try to show them how to do it, and then I just didn't feel right. Like I just felt like I was gonna pass out, and I was like, I know I'm out of shape, but I'm not like this bad. So end up in a situation where I go into the hospital, the emergency room, because I'm at this point passing full whole food, right? So I'm eating an apple and it's coming out as an apple. So I called doctor. Doctor's like, dude, you need to go to the emergency room. So I go to the emergency room, and that's when they tell me that I am anemic and that my blood count is well below the male average. So 14.2 is like the very low average. I was at 12.4 or maybe 8.4. I was like zero point 0.2 away from being unconscious. So I was like one more blood hemorrhage out my butt before lights out. So luckily I went to the hospital when I did. I stayed a few days in there. I think it was about a week. They gave me a bunch of IVs, a bunch of blood transfusions, and we started the course to figure out what our next steps were. And so the next steps were that the colon is not repairable and that I needed to go have surgery. And that surgery was going to have to be for a full colectomy. So my entire colon was going to have to be removed. Not only that, but they were also going to take out like 92% of my rectum, and then put in a stoma, which is that, again, that small intestine. So my whole large intestine, my colon, is going to be gone. So hearing that is like, you see those movies where like everything starts to warp and they just start when they get like bad news. It was very similar. I kind of feel like everything around me just kind of just deadened and kind of just went silent, and I just was there with my thoughts, and I just kept thinking, I don't know how I'm going to live like this. I didn't know really what a stoma was, but I didn't want to feel bad anymore. And so this was the way for me to be back to some sort of normalcy. So I wasn't able to leave the house when I was hemorrhaging blood. I wasn't able to do a lot of things that I wanted to do. On top of just not feeling very well, just feeling all the time, exhausted and everything. So we had talked about that. I said, I don't really want to do it now. And they were like, we're not really ready to do it now. So we planned for it, and we planned for October. I was teaching in a different district, and they ran what they called a year-round schedule, where they took shorter summers and then longer fall breaks and winter breaks and spring breaks. So each thing was 2 weeks. So I was like, all right, I got 2 weeks for fall break. Let's do it then. And then how long's recovery? They're like 8 weeks. So I was like, okay, so then I can just take like 4 weeks and then be back. So what I did is I took the 2 weeks they were already giving me for fall break, and then I took my time between first day of ending of fall break all the way up to winter break, which was I think 6 weeks at that time, and that was my whole entire recovery, and so I could come back for the beginning of the year, the calendar year in January. So that's what I chose to do. So I was fortunate because I got to kind of prepare months in advance for a life-changing surgery. I know many people who may watch this or know someone with a stoma did not get that opportunity. A lot of times it's done in an emergency situation, and you just kind of wake up to it. I can't imagine, like I knew what was coming, and it was hard enough when I woke up with that thing. So, yeah, it was wild. So, October comes around. I decided to do a last meal for my colon. I love just cruddy, nasty fast food. It is something. It's a vice, maybe, but I love it. I can't get enough of it. So, like, we had a party, and people brought my favorite type of fast food, and so we had like a big feast, and so there's like pizza there, and there was Taco Bell and White Castle and Krispy Kreme donuts, and so it was just like all you could have. Now I did this about 4 days before because I didn't want to too much, but I did like on a Friday. I ended up going to the surgery on Tuesday, I think is what it was. So did that. That was fun. That was kind of like a nice way to say, all right, I'm ready. So I did that, and then went into surgery. I had an incredible doctor who did. She's done 21 of my 22 surgeries. Dr. Nicole Allen, an incredible doctor, not only with knowledge and her precision as a surgeon, but her bedside manner and her just everything. Right? Like she told me before, this is what we're doing. This is how we recover. This, gave me timetables, was very, very purposeful and direct in what I needed to do and how I needed to do it. Right? So told me before, when you get out of surgery, we're getting you up and we're walking you. Like, it doesn't matter that you have just been in surgery. Like, the best way to get you healed is to get you up and moving. And then, so if I'd be like, I'm in a lot of pain. And he said, pain must get up and walk. Okay. So I'd get up and walk and the pain and stuff. And then, so that was awesome. And even all the nurses would rave about Dr. Allen. And she is an incredible surgeon. So, the day of the surgery, went in there, and woke up. Actually woke up as I was being wheeled out of surgery. I have a tendency to wake up in surgeries. Some people say it's because I'm left-handed. I think redheads have it also like that, but I think it's just because I've had a lot of surgeries. So I woke up, I'm getting wheeled out. They're telling me to walk. I'm very much against that idea because it just came out of surgery, but I did. I spent 5 days in the hospital, mainly just making sure everything was fine. So waking up with a bag was very weird. So my first surgery was like laparoscopic, which means like with lasers, and so there was no incisional scars. There's like just a couple dots in some places. And it was on my right side. So I was like, dude, this is pretty easy. Definitely pain from surgery, but like overall was feeling pretty good. Um, didn't have any issues in the hospital with the bag. Had a wonderful, and this person I tell anybody who tells me I have a stoma or anybody who talks to me about my stoma, I tell them this story. Had a nun who just volunteered at the hospital who would go and meet with people who had stomas and just kind of talk to them about it. And she came in and she was telling me her story about having cancer all this time. And she'd had it and then she got rid of it and had it and got rid of it and came back all this time. Ended up having the full colectomy as well. And she was like, I was absolutely in pieces, didn't know how I was going to live my life. She said, but then I was in traffic. And I thought, I don't really, not worried about it anymore. The idea is that just because something has changed doesn't mean that it's all bad, right? Certainly isn't the most convenient thing to have, but when I'm in traffic, I can use the bathroom. I'm no longer in a stressful, urgent situation, right? I'm at a Fish concert. Everybody's standing in line. I'm not. I'm still hanging out, right? Meaning, that is great, by the way. But with everything that we deal with, there's always going to be some sort of positive we can take from it. And we don't always have to go straight to the positive. We can address the negatives. We can sit with the sadness. We can be upset about things. We can do all of those things. But we have to make sure that we monitor it in a time. We don't want to live in that sadness. We don't live in that upsetness. We don't want to live in that dread, because there are positives to these things, right? Plenty of negatives, right? So one of the big negatives is when I go through airport. I'm often, especially on international flights, often told to go to the room where they have to search me. I've had to get down into my boxers before. A lot of times it's simply just pat around it, and then they do the chemical thing on my hand to make sure it's not anything. Um, you know, I when I recently I was at the World Cup thing, and I went in to use the restroom, and I had a security guard follow me in and asked me to lift up my shirt because he thought I had a weapon on me. Um, you just have to be aware that not everyone knows what you know, and that goes for a lot of stuff in life. But with this particularly, right? I could get really offended and be like, "Well, I can't believe you would ask me that." Well, no, you can see it under my shirt. Like, you can tell that there's something there. Like, it's his job to keep people safe. I don't have a problem with that. I've even been accused of shoplifting at Best Buy. They thought I had stolen something because it looked like a case or something. And again, you just go, no, this is what it is, and let's just move on. They're always very embarrassed and always very like apologetic, but just gotta realize that it's part of the tour. But anyway, so my first year with the stoma was difficult. I'm not gonna lie about that. You're learning so much. So, you know, the bag itself comes to you. You order them. You order the adhesive wipes. You order the bags. You order the bags to keep the bags. You keep the rings if you need the rings to put on. And all of the stuff you have to kind of troubleshoot. And so I started off with a one piece. I didn't really like the one piece, so I went to a two piece, which means that you have an adhesive pad and then you have another thing that goes on top of that. And then you can just change the bag itself instead of the adhesive part all the time. And I liked that for a period of time, and then my stoma changed. Like, my body changed, right? I gained some weight, so my stoma changed a bit. And two piece really wasn't working for me anymore, so I went back to a one piece. And then I realized that because of some hernias that were happening in and around the scarred area, the scar tissue area, I needed to get a ring to elevate the bag so that it, didn't leak. And that's the number one thing as far as an issue is. It still to this day, 11 years in, if I'm sleeping and I have a leak, or I'm driving in the car and I have a leak, that's really difficult. Not for me. I always just think of my wife. I'm like, oh man, I just like literally shit the bed, and it's just gross, and it's like usually 3, 4 in the morning, and it's not a good time. My wife is an incredible human being. She's never made me feel less than, or never made me feel like I was a burden, or if I somehow was anything bad. She's always very helpful. So big things that have helped me through that make me feel better are I have a waterproof lining underneath my sheet. And so that way, if I do have a leak or have an issue with my bag, it will never ruin the mattress. If you have a stoma, go on Amazon, get you just a pullover fitted sheet that's waterproof. I also, on top of that, underneath the sheet, just for my own mind, I put another pad, like I don't want to say like a potty pad, but like it's kind of like that, right? It's got some gauze and some waterproofness, and I put that under the sheet too, and I lay on top of that. So that way, for me, I go, okay, I got two layers of waterproof. I'm good, because I worry a lot. I worry a lot about destroying things and about perception and all this stuff. So for me, it just makes my mind kind of at ease to be able to have that level of protection. And then I just wake up and I handle what I got to handle. My wife has been there to help me change my bag when I couldn't, when I've been in the hospital. My wife has been there to help check things that I can't necessarily check or see, like areas in my bottom. And I'll get to that here in a moment with some infections that I had. But yeah, it's just one of those things. So really having a strong support system around you of people who love you and don't judge you is very, very important. And I know not everybody has that. So I'm telling you, if you hear this and you see this, I can be your person. I don't mind that. I've helped a couple people through their stoma journey, so would love to help anyone. So, maintaining it is like everything in your life. You will develop systems and you will develop an understanding of what your stoma is, right? I know that certain foods at certain times before I go to bed now can't have, right? I monitor popcorn before I go to bed. Anything that comes out like whole or will rest on top of my stoma can often seep down through the cut hole, and that can cause a leak, right? So I am aware of these things that my body does. I'm aware of how quick my body moves. I'm worried about the food. I'm aware of all that stuff. So that didn't happen overnight. That didn't even happen in the first year. And things that I had, then, I may not have now. So I'm on stoma number 2. And so I had my stoma moved, not last year, the year before, 2024. I had my beginning of. No, beginning of 25. Yeah, beginning of 25. I had my stoma on my right side. I had some scar tissues. So in 2019, I'll jump back, told you I was going to be a little chaotic with this. 2019, I had some scar tissue loops. I'm going to try and make a hand gesture here that shows that. And what happened was my small intestine got inside of those scar tissue loops, and then I moved and it constrained, and then boom, strangulated bowel. So I was in a lot of pain, wasn't listening to my body, was working, just saying it'll be fine, it'll be fine, to the point where I couldn't even like sit up. And that's when I went to the hospital, told me I had to have an emergency surgery. I had emergency surgery on my bowel. They unkinked it, took out the loops. They ended up finding some tumors while doing that. So just because something bad happens, here's another example. Something bad happened, had a strangulated bowel, but what they found were cancerous tumors that hadn't had a chance to spread or really develop much and could just remove them. And that's what they did. And then I took some oral medication and did few biologics for a couple hours, like for a couple months. And then it was done. Like I keep getting monitored, but it was good. So, just another reminder that just because something negative happened doesn't mean that something positive can't come from that. Without that strangulated bowel, I would have never known about the tumors. And the tumors could have grown, could have spread, and would be a whole different conversation than we are today. So that happened in 2019. That happened in December of 2019. So then January comes, I'm still struggling. I start to have some infections in that back end area because I still have 3% of my rectum, remember? And the reason that they keep that is because there's what's known as the J pouch. And the J pouch is essentially a sac or a bag that lives inside of you. And when it fills, you then empty it out of your rectum just like you would if you were pooping. All right. So those are for people who are hoping to have things reversed back to normal. And a lot of people who have stomas go back to having it reversed where that hole is closed, it's reattached to the rectum, and then after they've handled the I can say that word, diverticulitis, whatever, you know what I'm talking about, stomach thing. That's what the people who I talk to most who have new stomas, they're dealing with that. That diverticulitis. I don't know. Diverticulitis. Ah, boy. I don't know. Anyway. So that those infections occurred. I ended up having 14 surgeries in a 2-month period there in 2020. It was nasty. They ended up taking out the whole of my rectum, ended up closing it all up, sealing it up. So I do not have a butthole. So it's all sewed up and so closed. So that's pretty gnarly. Pretty crazy. But I'm not a person who can ever have my stoma reversed because of that until they develop a artificial rectum or something. I don't know. They may have it. I'm too poor for that. However, I love my stoma. So in 2019, we had all those surgeries. Ended up having what was known as a wound vac. Let me tell you, wound vacs, in my opinion, were the worst thing I've ever had to deal with. Worse than a stoma, worse than hemorrhaging blood on my backside. Wound vac was horrible because they have to come in, they have to change it, the dressings, and pack and unpack, and that is in a wound. And there's nothing but lidocaine to help you. And if you've ever had lidocaine, you know that doesn't do a whole lot. It just basically does that top layer of skin. So that was pretty crazy. Crazier is that they taught my wife how to clean it and repack it, and she did. So for like 2 months, she packed and more than that probably packed and repacked my wound in my bottom. So if you ever wonder if my wife is an incredible human being, she's beyond that. We call her Dr. Cassie because she also changed my PICC line. I had a PICC line for a bit. She changed my IV bags. She was changing it because I was at home. This was during COVID, so they didn't really want a lot of people in the hospital. So they would give me things to get me at home, and then Cassie would take care of me. And so that was just incredible. That might be the first time I said her name on the podcast. 6 episodes in. So that happened in 2020. And I tell you all of that to say that like that was my experience, right? It's very specific to me. But there's gonna be issues with your stoma. You're gonna have times where you're like, I can't do this anymore. I'm upset. The world's falling down around you. Just do your best to make it through that day, and then reassess the next day on how you're gonna approach moving forward. Whether that's talking to a doctor, a nurse. If you're in the U.S., wound nurses are a great place of support and help. They'll help you with a lot of things. You do have to reach out to them in most cases. They're not just going to call you and check up on you. They have a lot of people on their list. If you're struggling with maintaining it, cleaning it, just questions about it, book a time with a wound nurse, a wound or ostomy nurse. They will help you. If you are in the UK, there are so many amazing resources. You have Ulcerative Colitis UK Foundation. You have Crohn's Colitis Foundation. Both have support groups on Facebook. When I was on Facebook, I was a part of that. Found the community to be really helpful and supportive. A lot of people just giving you tips, giving you encouragement. So if you're in the UK and you're dealing with a stoma, do check out those support places. They have a lot more charitable organizations. They also have a free NHS, so you can go and speak to your doctors and your nurses without worrying about it costing you a whole bunch. Unfortunately, here in the U.S., we do not have that system, so try to find local people who may have stomas or may be willing to work with you. Again, if you reach out to me on YouTube or any of the ways that you can reach out to me, I will absolutely help you. I would love to. I know it can be difficult, but it's if I can do it, anybody can do it. I'm a miserable person, and if I can do it, you all can do it. All right. So I talked about it not being reversible. So I'm not a person who's ever going to not have a stoma. So what does that mean for my body and my future? Well, it's one of the things that just it's a small pet peeve. But whenever I go into the doctor, it never ceases. A nurse looks at my chart, looks at how many surgeries I've had, looks at my medication, looks at everything and goes, "You are too young to be going through all of this." Well, have you told my body? Because my body is going through this. And so I know it comes from a place of just like maybe shock or maybe just trying to be supportive. Nurses and doctors, that's not helpful. It's not. Telling me I'm too young to deal with this, I'm dealing with it. You know what I mean? Like this isn't a choice for me. I didn't say, sign me up for stoma. It saved my life. It's the reason that I'm here. I'm very appreciative of it. But let's stop with the whole you're too young, because that doesn't put systems, that doesn't put tips, that doesn't put help in my hands. So let's move forward in the sense of saying, hey, you're awfully young, What is it that you need help with? What is it you need support with, and with your stoma? Not, you're too young to deal with this. Okay, well then who's dealing with it? If I've been deemed too young, anyway, just a small pet peeve. It's not. I understand it means people come and people go on the shorts and go, well, nurses. I know why they do it. I'm just asking them to find a different way to say it. I love the support. I love nurses. Love doctors. But bro, asking me every time, when am I gonna like? I will say now that I'm 43, don't get it as much. Don't get as much of that. You're too young. So, but I kind of like it. Um, so my body and my future, as I mentioned earlier, I had one. It was started off on my right side, so I was having a lot of trouble with scar tissue and hernias. So after 10 years, I had developed a nasty um, peristomal hernia, um, which is just a funny, like a big thing of saying that the scar tissues had basically created a hernia, and that hernia was growing and growing and growing. I want to say it was like 15 centimeters in diameter, which is pretty gnarly. And so, same thing, went to the doctor because I knew something was up, knew my body well, and was like, hey, something's going on. I don't think this should look like this. I don't think I should feel like this. And they were like, yeah, no, it's absolutely right. Now, here's where it happens. They go, well, only thing we can do is move it. Okay. You're too young to move it. Okay. So this is where my future becomes tricky. I only got so much real estate, right? And the last thing that the surgeon did tell me, said, and it wasn't Dr. Allen, it was a different surgeon. And they said, if you keep, you start moving it, you're going to move it a lot, and then you're going to run out of real estate. And where are we at, when that happens? And I was completely agreed. I said, you're right. I'm not here because I want it on my left side. I'm here because I'm in pain and I'm not being able to have a quality of life that I think is consistent with what I should be living. And so we'd had that conversation. We decided that over spring break, so this was February of 25, spring break, we were going to handle the movement of the stoma kind of like we did in the original. Carved it out with a little bit of time so I didn't eat up all my PTO. And a little sidebar here. That's the one thing that you have to deal with in the US that you don't in the UK. A certain amount of time I can have off, regardless of like personal time off, PTO, right? I'm going in for a life-saving surgery. It's not my choice. Doesn't matter. We're not going to pay you unless you have short-term disability. But you can't get short-term disability with pre-existing conditions. So I just don't. So once my days are burned, I'm just done. I only get 10 days. You see the problem here? People who work super hard, people who show up to work are not given the same respect, the same understanding when it comes to things that are outside their control. I digress. I digress. I hate the American medical system. Hate that we have to pay for insurance. I hate that insurance doesn't pay for everything. I'm still paying stuff off from my 2025 medical stuff. I had to go in an ambulance. It wasn't my choice. They made me go in an ambulance, and I'm paying $4,000 for that. I could drive. I was like, I'll just drive to the hospital. They're like, no, we don't know that you will. And if I don't, 43 years old, I made a choice. Anyway, I get upset about that because there's going to be a chance that I'm going to have more surgeries. I mean, that's pretty much a given. And when that happens, I end up being incredibly stressed out over finances. I just hit the table. So I ended up having it moved because I ended up having to go into emergency surgery because it just same thing from 2019. Stomach started acting weird like a week after I'd gone to the doctor and set all that up. And I don't know if it's my brain going, hey, he's got it set up. You can just do it. So I just ended up going in that Monday, actually. So Yeah, that Monday. I saw Dr. Humphrey and Dr. England that day. That evening, I got checked in the Baptist, and Dr. Humphrey was on call, and she took care of my surgery. So I didn't have Dr. Allen for that because I don't know why. I don't know, maybe she just wasn't on call. But I had Dr. Humphrey, incredible doctor, incredible surgeon, very kind. Baptist East is the best hospital in Louisville. I have no problem saying that. I was born there. I've been to the other ones. U of L Hospital put me in the head trauma unit when I got transferred there, which means that I was tethered to a bed, even though I didn't have any head injury or back injury or spinal injury. Yeah, it's a spine injury unit. It was the only bed they had. So I was tethered to the bed. I couldn't move for days. Ended up having to check myself out because it was like, this is not helping. This isn't help. This is just awful. So Baptist East is the way to go if you have any issues. So Dr. Harvey hooked it up, put it over on the left side. I love it. Probably should have started on the left. Don't know why we chose the right, to be honest. A golf swing, because I go outside in. I'm not hitting that stoma, which is helpful because that would hurt real bad. I just overall like it better here on the left side. I'm a left-handed person, left dominant, so it just kind of feels better there too. So yeah, that happened, and hopefully that will stick around for a bit on that side because, like I said, run out of real estate. But what about long-term goals with a stoma? My long-term goals are like the same as I had without the stoma. I want to see football matches. I want to watch them win Champions League. I want to do well in servicing and helping children be their best version of themselves in academics and behavior. I want to be an advocate for those who don't have a voice in their community and education. I want all those things. Physically, my long-term goals haven't changed either. I want to shoot in the 70s at golf. Basically what I'm getting at is a stoma doesn't have to stop you. And the title of this episode is No Colon, Still Rolling, right? Because I am. There's nothing about the stoma that has stopped me. It slowed me down for a bit, but that was more the mental aspect. Physically, I'm fine. I work out, I do sport, I do all the things I want to do, and I love to do. So that hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed is that my life expectancy has grown. 60 years ago, I'd be dead. Now I have a normal life expectancy as long as everything else in my body doesn't give up on me. High likelihood. So, sorry, that said high likelihood. One of my best friends, she always says I was made of glass. I one time stood up on New Year's Eve at a party and broke 3 bones in my foot. Just from standing up. Broke 3 toes. So I am made of glass. But my stoma rocks. Advice for you, name it. Have fun with it. I named mine Mike Hannigan. So if you're a Friends fan, you could probably figure out why I call it Mike Hannigan. If you're not, look it up. Mike Hannigan Friends. It's pretty funny. I think. Quite clever. But yeah. This is for you, buddy, over there in the UK, who just got your stoma. You got this, my guy. Nothing's going to slow or stop you. You are an amazing person. And I truly believe that God only gives his toughest trials to its strongest warriors. And you have always shown to be strong. So you got this, my man. And anyone else out there who sees this, who has a stoma or a loved one with a stoma, you all have it. Everyone's got this. Just try to put things in a positive. And if you have to be upset, one thing my therapist told me is set a timer. If you 7 minutes and live in that sadness for 7 minutes. But when that time's up, practice moving on. There's absolutely a time and place to recognize your feelings and for your feelings to be valid, but don't make your feelings your personality. Don't make your stoma your personality, right? It's not mine. It's something that certainly impacts everything I do, but I don't think that I'm any different of a person because of it. If anything, I'm a better person for it. It's giving me some perspective and some real gratitude. Because when you're laying in a hospital bed for 2 weeks in the summertime, all you want is to be healthy. All right. Much love to you all. This one was just me talking for almost an hour. Um, but I felt it was necessary with some things that my friends are going through, and I wanted to make sure that he knew that I'm here to support him. And for all you out there who have stomas or know people with stomas, let's create a community of love and support and help each other. And let's do that with all we do, honestly. I'm big in community at the moment. Let's wrap this up. Big shout outs. Big shout out to my wife. Incredible, Dr. Cassie. Big shout out to Young Beauty Company. Go to Young Beauty for all of your makeup, spray tan, and hair needs. They are excellent for anything that is your big day, whether it be a business or a personal event, or if you just want to feel fancy. Just want to feel fancy. Hit them up. Book a trial, book a appointment, book it all. Book it all. All skin tones, all different demographics, all different type of people, male, women, doesn't matter. Young Beauty has what you need. Also, give a big shout out to another one, and that is markparis.com. Please go visit Mark Paris, his website. He is a graphic designer and overall just cool creative. He can help you with getting any of your content jazzed up or provide your business with a really sleek and wonderful design for any of the content that you need to have. He has had he's done content for likes of Ray-Ban. Gosh, lots of big companies. I just can't think of them right now. But he's absolutely an amazing graphic designer, loop creator, all of it. Check him out on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, or at his website, markparis.com. He's absolutely wonderful. Yeah, I love you all. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. As always, going to give my sports shout outs. Go Arsenal. We're so close to the season starting. Vinny, come to Arsenal. Go Lions. Go Cards. Go Knicks. Go Cubs. Yeah, go me. Deuces.